There is one emotional state that you need to understand if you want to create real change in your life. On the path to any goal, any outcome, you will encounter it. It's called resistance. Resistance is the emotional state that causes you to stall, second guess, revert, even when you are completely capable. I personally didn't realize how much resistance was running my life until around 2020. I thought I was disciplined, I knew that I was driven, and I thought that the reason why I wasn't taking action was because I was being responsible. But in reality, I was in resistance. And how this would show up would be in my thoughts. I would say things like, maybe when the kids are older. I just don't have the time right now. I definitely need more money before I can get started. But underneath all of that, what was really causing me to stall was fear, doubt, uncertainty, and disbelief that achieving that goal was actually possible for me. And for sure, there was the thought, I'm not smart enough to do this. And resistance doesn't look super dramatic. Notice how it looks logical. And if you zoom out, you'll see it everywhere. The promotion you haven't applied for, the business you haven't started yet, the body you keep restarting, the conversation with your spouse that you haven't had yet. It's not that you don't know what to do to get to that goal, to get to that result. It's that you're in the emotional state of resistance and you've never been taught how to get out of it, which is what I'm going to teach you on this episode. So resistance and non-resistance is something that I've learned through David Baer's work, and it traces back to Neville Goddard's teachings. And it's this idea that you're always operating from one of two states, resistance and non-resistance. So resistance is emotions that we would classify as negative, okay? And these are the specific resistant emotions. So pay attention. Doubt, fear, confusion, dread, uncertainty, incapable, disbelief, and confusion. And if you've been following me for a while, you know what I teach about how those emotions are created. Those emotions just don't come on you. They're not created by the circumstances in your life. They are created by your thoughts. That is backed by neuroscience. So your thoughts create those emotions for you. So confusion would be created by the thought, I just don't know what to do, or I don't know how. Doubt is created by the thought, this isn't working, or I don't think this is going to work for me. The feeling of incapable would be created by the thought, I'm not capable of this, or I don't think I can do that. Dread might come from thoughts like, I don't feel like doing this, or I have to do all of these things. Fear is usually created by the thoughts, what if this doesn't happen for me? Usually a what if sentence, or I don't know what to do if X, Y, or Z happens. So notice that the resistance is created by a collection of thoughts that you are thinking. Now, the reason why resistance is a problem when you're in that emotional state is because typically when you're going after something that you want, or you're even thinking about, this is the kind of life that I want for myself. These are the changes that I want for myself. I want this goal. You're going to feel resistance. You're going to go into one of those emotions. And it's not those emotions that are the problem. It's what you do when you're feeling the doubt, fear, disbelief, shame, guilt, confusion. And the actions are pretty predictable. You're going to stall, avoid, overeat, overscroll, aka all the buffering actions. You'll procrastinate, you'll stop showing up, you'll stop making a plan, you'll even stop talking to other people about the goal if that was something that you were doing before. And one of the most detrimental things that you'll do is you'll spin in a cycle of negative thinking, limiting thoughts. I can't do this, this is so hard, why am I even going after this? Maybe I don't want this, I should just give up. Success is meant for other people. This is just who I am. And those are the thoughts that will essentially have you giving up on your goal. Now let's shift and talk about what non-resistance is. So similar to resistance, non-resistance is also a collection of emotions. And yes, you guessed it, those emotions are positive. We classify them as positive because they feel good inside of us. So they are hope, clarity, excitement, confidence, certainty, discipline, focus, belief, faith, neutrality, when you're feeling neutral, is considered a non-resistant emotion. And when you're in this collection of emotions, in this emotional state, even if because remember, we're only feeling one emotion at a time and we can switch between these emotions at any given moment. So when you're in those emotions, your actions flow towards your goal. And what that looks like is you continue to take action. You think clearly. You focus and get more done in a shorter amount of time. You take massive action. You do the brave thing. You reach out to that one person who you know can maybe support you to taking the next step if you need to. So those actions will help propel you towards your goal. Now, remember, those emotions, those non-resistant emotions, that state of being doesn't just come upon you. It's not based on the circumstances that you have. It's based on what you think, because your thoughts create your emotions. So if you're in an emotional state of non-resistance, you're feeling hope, excitement, clarity, focus, discipline, neutrality, confidence, capable, it's because you're having a thought first. It comes from thoughts like, this is possible. I can figure this out. I'm still taking action. It's still possible for me. I don't need to panic. This is part of the journey. I can pivot. I always figure it out. If you think one of those thoughts, it will put you in a state of non-resistance. Notice we can have the same circumstance with two people who are going after the same goal. If one person has a thought that creates non-resistance, they will take action that propels them towards the goal, versus the other person, if they're thinking a negative thought, a resistance thought, I always screw up. I can never do this. What was I thinking that I could have this? That is going to stall, delay. They may procrastinate, or they may give up towards their goal. Same circumstance, different thought, different feeling, different action, and different outcome. So for example, if you eat a bag of chips and think, I'm such a mess, I've ruined everything, versus you eat a bag of chips and think, okay, that happened. I'm ready to make the next best decision. One thought is going to throw you into resistance. The other thought is going to throw you into non-resistance. The actions of the resistant thought, I've ruined everything, might have you spiraling for the rest of the night or the next 3 days. You might just go on a 3-day bender. But if you're feeling calm and neutral and hopeful, you might just follow your plan for the rest of the night, start the next day, fresh, still supporting yourself with believable, non-resistant thoughts. One of them has you moving forward. The other one has you spiraling potentially for the next day or 3 days. So think about any goal that you have. If you think the thought, I'm not ready, that will most likely create a feeling of fear or doubt or confusion inside of you. That is a resistant state of being. You're going to stall, you're going to procrastinate. But if you think, I can figure this out, I'm ready to take the first step, you move into non-resistance. Nothing externally changed. The only thing that changed was your thought. And your results will always reflect the constant state that you're operating from. So if you don't have the promotion yet, or if you're still at the same job that you wish you would have left a year ago, or if you still weigh the same amount that you weighed last year and you have a goal to lose 50 pounds, these are all signs that you're still operating from the same resistant state of being. Now, there's something really important to pay attention to when you're exploring your own resistance inside of you, when you think about achieving the thing that you want. It's important to ask yourself, do I actually want this result? And do I like the method of getting there? Because sometimes resistance isn't just fear, it's misalignment. And so I'll give you an example of where I experienced this for myself. For most of my life, I wanted to lose weight. I wanted the result of being a normal eater. But the method that I thought that I had to subscribe to was counting macros or counting calories, following a meal plan, eating mostly vegetables, and having cheat days. And every single time that I would start out on one of these methods, I would start out with a ton of motivation, a ton of discipline, but that would fizzle out. And before I knew it, resistance was there. I don't want to do this anymore, or I hate this. Those thoughts, I don't want to do this, I hate this, I don't like this, create an incredible amount of resistance. This is the reason why people aren't normal eaters, because they don't understand that there is a non-resistance method. It's actually the method that I teach, the 4 Good method. You make a plan, your own plan, you write down the food that you want to eat throughout the day, and you follow that plan, and you eat within hunger satisfied. That's it. That's how you become a normal eater. That's how you can get to your goal weight and maintain it for the rest of your life. But the reason why I had resistance towards these other methods is that they weren't sustainable for me. Now, I have friends who have been tracking macros for years and they love it. They have zero resistance. They've got no thoughts about how they hate it, or that they want to give up, or that the weight's all going to come back as soon as they stop. They actually enjoy that method. So for them, that is non-resistance, right? The resistance comes from our thinking. Another time, I actually talked to my life coach about how I wanted to have abs. I wanted to have like an 8-pack. And we talked about like what it would take for me to achieve that. And when I looked at like, okay, this is what I got to do, that's just, I mean, I could do that. I could generate the discipline, but do I want that? And like, how long do I believe that that would last for me? And when I had that answer, it was just, no, I don't want to do that. And so what's interesting is that there was a resistance, but then it moved into non-resistance by accepting the fact that I don't like this path in order to get that goal. Therefore, I don't really want that goal. So resistance can be a sign that you are trying to become somebody that you're not. When I became a normal eater, it was because I wasn't dieting. I was following my own meal plan, and that felt very non-resistant to me. It felt very generous, and I felt very abundant. I only had to do 2 things. The method was around 5 minutes a day. And this is why so many of my clients have so much success, because it moves them from total resistance to non-resistance right when they come work with me. If you're interested in learning more about the 2 steps, you should go watch this episode. It is the 3 beliefs that you must have if you want to lose your weight for good or become a normal eater for life. So if the method aligns with you, with how you think that you will achieve the goal, and if you really want that goal, ask yourself, do I want that goal? And if that method aligns with getting you there, that resistance will drop. And I think it's really important to remember that some goals don't come out with a laid out method to get there. So this could be starting a business, changing a career, becoming a leader. In those cases, usually it's not misalignment, the resistance that you're feeling, it's usually fear. So let's look at a work example. You want more ownership at your company, or maybe it's a leadership role, and you know that the next step is to go to your boss and ask for it. And right before you do, a thought comes in. I don't actually know if this is what I want to do. Maybe I'm not ready. That thought creates doubt. Doubt creates hesitation. And hesitation creates inaction. You don't have the conversation, you don't submit the proposal, you don't apply for the role. And then you just say, it didn't work out. Or maybe you'll blame. It's always Sam. He's always the one that's up for promotion. It's them. That's the problem. And this isn't rare. Research shows that nearly 70% of adults report fear of failure as the reason why they don't pursue their meaningful goals. 70%. So if fear shows up, it's not that you're broken, you're human. The difference isn't whether or not fear shows up, it's how quickly can you shift from that resistant emotion to a non-resistant emotion. In this case, because we know that the thought is not true. And this is what I appreciate about how David Baer teaches emotion and moving out of emotion, because as I do teach that it is important to sit with negative emotions, to experience the feeling so that you don't buffer from it, which is such an important skill. But it's also important to recognize, okay, am I in this primal resistant emotion, fear, doubt, shame, insecurity, incapability, etc. And if I know that there's a limiting belief there that's creating that emotion, and I've already sat with that emotion in the past and I know how to process feelings, why would I sit in that emotion and not just switch it to what is true, what is possible for me in this situation? And so there's a few steps that I want to outline for you if you want to start taking action towards the goal that you want. And what we're going to do is we're going to pay attention to how we feel. So step number 1 really is to first decide if you want that goal. And do I have an idea, roughly of how to get there, whatever those actions are? And if the answer is yes, own it, get excited about that, live in that non-resistance place for a while. And then secondly, when you notice that you are in resistance, that negative emotion, that's usually how we'll feel it first. Or I shouldn't say we will feel it first because the thought creates it, but the second is when you notice that you're in negative emotion, that resistant emotion, identify the thought that is creating it. I'm not smart enough. This is going to be too hard. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do next. I'm failing at this. They won't take me seriously. I don't know how to start a business, etc. Okay, once you have the thought that has created that emotion, now step 3 is that you have to deliberately look for what else is true. So if the thought is, I'm not smart enough, ask yourself, what else is true? How am I smart enough to figure this next thing out? I've learned hard things before. I've handled responsibility before. I can grow. I can improve. So your brain will actively go and look for evidence for whatever it is that you tell it to go look for. It's just that its default is to go look at the negative things first. So this requires that prefrontal cortex to say, okay, wait, what else is true about this situation? My brain is telling me I'm going to fail. Okay, brain, how is it true that I know how to succeed? What areas of my life have I proven that I can succeed, that I can figure it out? And your brain will go do that work. It just takes a little bit more effort. So this shift will move you from resistance to non-resistance. And non-resistance produces action. And if you remember, action is what creates your results. It is what gets you the outcome that you want in your life. So even in scripture, we see this pattern. Our heroes didn't start with capability. They started with resistance. Look at Moses. God tells him to go free the Israelites. Moses says, who am I? They won't believe me. I'm slow of speech. That is identity resistance. He's expressing that belief about himself. I'm not capable. He believed that the one weakness he thought he had about himself was going to disqualify him, but God used that very weakness to fulfill his destiny. Just like you believe that there's something that disqualifies you from getting the result that you want in your life. And what's so great is that God doesn't remove the assignment from Moses. He says, now go and I will help you speak. Notice the order: go, then help. Movement, then provision. Then God says in Isaiah 43:19, I am making a way for you in the wilderness. The way is being made for you, but only so long as you walk in it. You don't have to wait until you feel that juicy emotion of capability. You can move into the non-resistant positive emotion of willingness, of hope, of faith, of possibility. Because when you move from those non-resistant emotions, when you take actions, those actions will create more capability because you'll start to have more thoughts about, maybe I can do this. Maybe God is making the way. It's kind of like any of the clients who've come to work with me in my For Good program or the 10-10-10 accelerator. They come in with a little bit of non-resistance. They're thinking, maybe this is possible for me, right? And that belief comes usually because they're figuring out the method that I teach for normal eating, the 2 steps: make a plan, follow, hunger, satisfied. So there's not a lot of resistance there. But then, of course, the resistant kind of rises to the surface, almost as though they are walking a tightrope between resistance and non-resistance, resistance and non-resistant. They don't have the result yet. 2 weeks in, they may still weigh the same amount of weight when they started on week 2. But if they stay on course, if they stay in non-resistance, they will begin to feel capable because their beliefs come alongside of action. So if you're listening to this and you're not taking action towards your goal, and I'm talking about real action, active action, not passive action with just listening and consuming. One of the most powerful steps that you can take is to get into action. What is that very first thing that I need to do to take action to get towards my goal? For me, the very first time I took action towards getting to my goal of becoming a life coach was speaking that goal to my life coach. I felt so uncertain with telling anybody that I had the secret dream. And when I told her, I said, one day when my kids are grown and they've all moved out of the house, I want to become a life coach. And as any good life coach would do, she didn't let me hide behind one day. She asked me, why not now? And that is when the resistance surfaced. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough time. I just had a kid. What would I even coach on? I'd probably be terrible at this. And I don't have any money. And she didn't argue with me. She just exposed the thoughts. And once they were visible, they were not so powerful. Within a year, I enrolled in one of the most reputable life coach certifications in the world, the Life Coach School. And what was so cool was that the tuition was $21,000. And right around when it came time to pay, an unexpected check came in the mail from a family member for $21,000, almost to the amount that it cost me to enroll in school. Now, listen, money was one of the areas of resistance that I had. That was the circumstance. I had to pay $21,000 to enroll in the school. My thoughts were, that's a lot of money. This is money I don't have. What am I going to do? I don't think it's possible for me. I'll have to save up for years, right? Resistance. When I got into non-resistance and took the first step, the money came. The money came after movement. It came after I switched into non-resistance. My first step was not the money, it was speaking the goal. And this is important because there's research that says that people who write down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them. 42%. Why? Because writing brings clarity. The goal, the dream, the vision doesn't just exist in your brain, which some people would say, like my coach, if it exists in your brain, it doesn't exist in the world. And so therefore, we must get it out and we must make it exist in this world. And remember, clarity is a non-resistant emotion. This is why getting coached is so powerful because it moves your goals from fantasy and things that I just think about on my own to accountability, to reality, to commitment. So here's the truth. You don't need more discipline. You need less resistance. And what releases those resistant emotions is getting into non-resistant emotions: clarity, hope, excitement, neutrality, vision, certainty, gratitude. And how do you access those? When you have believable thoughts that support you, you will find yourself in more non-resistant emotions. And when your emotional state shifts, your actions will be more in line with you achieving the goal that you want in your life. You're going to expand. You're going to be stepping onto that path that was already made. Just like Isaiah 43:19 says, God has established that path for you. If your life feels like you're walking in the wilderness, remember what he says. See, I am doing a new thing. I am making a way for you in the wilderness. The way is being made. You still have to walk in it. Now, listen, if you're somebody who has a goal, a vision, a dream, but you aren't actively stepping into that vision yet, it's not because you're broken. It's because you're in a lot of resistance and you aren't actively pursuing the tools to help you get out of it. And if you're somebody who needs help moving forward consistently without stalling every time you're in that negative, resistant emotion, check out the For Good Life 10-week accelerator. This is where we explore the resistance. This is where we identify the thought. And this is where we build capability through aligned action. I'm going to walk alongside you as your coach for 10 weeks. You're going to state your goal out loud, and we're going to remove every belief keeping you parked because the path is there. You just have to move. So if this episode helped you, please leave me a review, leave a comment, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. I'd love to know what's resonating with you and keep creating conversations that continue to move you. Thank you for being here. I will see you next time. Hey, it's Jaycee. Super quick. If this episode resonated with you and you want to take this further, I have 2 ways that you can work with me directly. Path number 1 is for the woman or man who wants to become a normal eater. You're going to work with me for 10 weeks, and by the end of those 10 weeks, you will be the normal eater that you've always desired to be. The second path is my 10-week For Good Life Accelerator. This is for you if you want to up-level every area of your life, build emotional capacity, strengthen follow-through, and develop real self-trust so that you wake up every single day doing the thing that you know that you want to do so that you can build the life that you've always been meant to create. Both programs are going to help you tap into your potential so that you can live the For Good Life, the life without so much unnecessary suffering and a life lived on purpose. And if you're not ready for weekly coaching or to accelerate your progress, I've attached 2 free trainings in the show notes. The first teaches my For Good method, the 2 steps to normal eating, and the second teaches you how to manage your mind in real time while you're feeling discomfort. And for ongoing teaching, emotional mastery, mind management, intentional living, and how to get out of your own way, join me here on YouTube weekly, hit subscribe, and I will see you on the next episode.